What makes a person boring? Having zero interests outside of work. Didn't realize this was such a problem. Thought it was just my so and me. I had no idea people were in such a serious rut. Bless you all for all the work you do. My dad used to always say this: if you're bored, you're boring. I used to hate it, but there's some truth that the people in this world who are interesting are people who can find wonder in any situation. If you have utterly nothing in common with them, chances are you bore them just as much as they bore you. Tends to happen most with friends of a friend. When they agree with everything you agree with, you need to have your own opinions. I totally agree with you, dude. Spending every bloody second of every minute of their life on Facebook, as opposed to Reddit. Till I'm a boring person. Honestly, a lot of it comes down to storytelling. I remember listening to one of my cousins tell a story, and I realized it was super boring, but I was super interested. So I started paying attention to the way she tells stories. I like to think people are more interested in what I have to say now, but also I've had a pretty crazy life so far, so there's a lot to talk about. Having a personality built exclusively around weed. I like the experience of it myself. But when all you can talk about are different strains and how it totally cures cancer, then please kill me instead of talking. This isn't the only thing, but being so apathetic that you never express a real opinion or initiate a conversation/activity. The guy who says I guess I like all music or its variation everything but rap and country if you ask what music he likes. The guy who says I don't know, I don't really follow politics if you mention literally any current event, no matter how apolitical. The guy who always says whatever you want to eat is fine. The guy who watches the TV in a trance when a football game is on, but doesn't get excited if his team is winning or losing, because I don't know, I don't really follow sports. The guy who has no favorite books or movies or video games. Who doesn't have any hobbies aside from playing the same video game or drinking the same beer at the same bar. The guy who's never got anything to say, positive or negative, about anything around him. Everything and everyone are fine. He kind of likes stuff, I guess, in that he doesn't particularly hate it, but you also don't know if he is capable of hating anything because he never branches out of a narrow range of basic things, or if he does, it's never wow. That's for introducing me to that. I like it, or OMG never expose me to that. It's awful. You show him a movie that doesn't star Adam Sandler or involve explosions, and it's I don't know. It was kinda weird I guess, haha. This guy likes to paint himself as easygoing, chill, and lacking drama, but in reality, he is boring. He confuses lack of tension with positivity. This doesn't mean that liking music, books, politics, sports, movies, or drama makes one interesting, but it at least gives a person something to talk about. If everything is I don't know, fine, the ability to converse, connect, and expand is dead. I wish I could say that most of these guys are heavy stoners and are just too high to be expressive, but I have met plenty that have never touched a drug in their life. No, I'm not describing someone with depression, which this type of person could be depressed. What I'm describing isn't being depressed. Symptoms of depression have context, and simply being tedious to be around doesn't mean a person is depressed. Someone who has just never branched out of the routine of consume what's popular just because it's popular, and never rock the boat doesn't need to be depressed to be that way. I'm also not describing social anxiety, fear of conflict or introversion. Those things also don't make a person interesting. Further, someone who fears conflict enough that they never express even the mildest opinion is not only boring, but they're extremely stressful to be around, so that isn't a good thing. Chronic medical conditions. I have no life outside my limited world. When they don't ever do anything spontaneous, and act as if anything different/unique is weird and embarrassing. When they only talk about other people, like talking shit about people is their only personality. Boring is subjective. What's fun for me is boring to you, so don't come at me and say me playing video games and watching anime is boring, is that's what I like. Last week I purchased a particularly nice 24-piece set of pale blue plastic Tupperware containers. It was financially reckless of me, but they were in a 25% discount sale. Also, it is summer. Can I not let my hair down a bit? I brought the pack home and arranged the containers on the kitchen table in descending size order, using the bubble sort algorithm. It was at this point I discovered to my delight that there must have been a labeling error at the factory, for there were in fact 26 pieces, not 24. I nevertheless felt obliged to check my excitement and call up the manufacturer to warn them of a potentially serious commercial oversight. I spent the next 3 hours carefully labeling each container and placing them inside one another, testing the interplay between each, and writing down the best stack combinations, scoring them out of 10. 2 containers, in particular, have a very impressive flush when the smaller is pushed into the larger. I was in fact so impressed by this that I took said containers to work the following day to show my colleagues this particular example of fine plastic manufacturing, but they just weren't that interested. I think it's because they have kids. It's having children that makes a person boring, I'm afraid. When you have children you don't have time for Tupperware anymore. People who talk at length about people I don't even know. My sister-in-law has been telling stories about her grandpa for 20 years. I've never met him. They aren't funny stories, just things he used to say, do, etc. Not recognizing when no one is interested in what they are talking about. This skill is one of the worst to learn, because you were always telling something you were excited about and realized no one else cared. No sense of humor and/or sense of adventure. People whose only activity in life is smoking weed and drinking alcohol. Talking about smoking weed and drinking alcohol. Talking about how high or drunk they were, and wondering when the next time it is that they will smoke weed or drink alcohol, while also being very loud about all of it, in public, in front of anyone. I know this girl whose personality is essentially I only type in caps because it makes me seem crazy. Her XD. Her entire gimmick is that she's insane, shouts all the time, and thinks that gore and murder is cool. I'm aware that it doesn't sound boring to y'all, but after knowing her for almost a decade and it never changing, the whole thing just gets pretty tedious. I came here to be enlightened, not to be described. SMH. Know it owls. Source, I used to be one. Not being able to have a meaningful conversation. I sometimes struggle with this. There are people I can talk to easily, without seemingly running out of things to say/ask. But if I feel I'm the one who has to initiate, I tend to get really wrapped up in my head about what to ask/say next, and then assume the other person must think I'm dull cause I can't chit chat like a regular person. Then I see other people who can talk to anyone about anything, and I'm like, was I sick the day they taught the talking like a normal person class at school? Not wanting to do anything. Agreeing with everything you say, but never offering anything unique. Till I'm the most boring person ever. Maybe that's why I've got no friends. Not being passionate about anything. I'm passionate about being impassionate. Lack of humor or surprise. No creativity, no original ideas. Everything is predictable. Having their personality centered around one single thing, and only that thing. I don't know how to explain myself, so I'm telling a story. About 4 months ago I started dating a girl of my class. At first, our conversations were normal, just okay. We were just getting to know each other, and often we were telling each other about things that had happened to us during the week. The conversations quickly became monotonous once we knew each other enough. The only thing we talked about, literally, was how she was doing in his music school and how much stress she had. They demanded a lot but still liked music, so she continued to attend his classes. She didn't have hobbies, favorite books, favorite movies. She didn't have time for any of that. The only thing that defined it was that school. Even her personality was neutral. She wasn't funny, angry, outgoing, just nothing. Don't be this kind of people, please. I'm quite a boring person. I'm very talkative and have interests and hobbies that most other people don't have or can't relate with. So when I talk about them, and in my mind I'm being very passionate, the other person listening is getting bored to death. Especially because I'm very old school, so most people perceive my interests as mom/granny things, which just adds to the lame/boring vibe. Also, I'm not comfortable being silent and sometimes keep talking for the sake of it. This one gets so boring even my boyfriend admits sometimes he gets sleepy listening to me talk like that. No sense of humor. Is this supposed to be a joke or something? 'Cause I'm not laughing. A bore is someone who deprives you of solitude without providing you with company. Oscar Wilde. Lack of curiosity and/or sense of humor. When the only thing you have in common to talk about is school/work. About 50% of this thread is people that misunderstand what the word boring means and comment on things that irritate them instead. Talking about nothing but themselves. If their identity is rooted in rejecting things they dislike instead of embracing things they like, it makes a person small, unidimensional and disconnected from the world. Have you ever noticed how, when people communicate their unpopular opinions, it's always something they dislike? Disliking things has become a trend. Because by disliking something you risk absolutely nothing. By embracing something unpopular you do, and you actually become an individual. Sending pics of half their neck and shoulder on Snapchat with no caption every day without actually engaging you in a real conversation. Exciting if you're a vampire. People with no hobbies/skills. I remember always struggling to answer those questions, what are your hobbies, and in hindsight, I was just super dull and barely living.